Hi, I'm Jilly G. Welcome to my kitchen. Today I'm going to show you something different than just a recipe. I'm going to show you what I eat in just a regular day. And this recipe, it's not really a recipe. It's in my cookbook, but this is just a green smoothie. And there's so many different ways you can make a green smoothie. And usually what I do is I will buy all of the ingredients for a smoothie in bulk. And then I will take a few hours one day and just make as many smoothies as I can and stick them in the freezer. And then they're ready for about a month or so. I can have a month's worth of my smoothies. But today I'm just going to show you one blender full. So I've got one lemon that I've juiced, I've got some pineapple, some nectarines, avocado, banana, some coconut oil, and then this is some kale. And it doesn't look like very much right now, but when you squish it all down and freeze it, it doesn't look like very much. And then I've got some coconut water and some kefir. And a blender. This is one of the best ways that I found. I've been doing this for many years. Even before I went gluten-free, I used to drink a smoothie every morning. If you start out your day with a smoothie, then you start out your day really good with a lot of nutrition. And then if you eat a few cookies later on, you know that you've at least gotten something good to start with. So what I do first is I start with my greens. And this kale was a little bit chopped up before I put it in the freezer. And it's actually still a little bit frozen. I usually don't add any ice to my smoothies, but you can if you like a really cold smoothie. And because my kale is still a little bit frozen, it will be cold anyways. And I do have a written recipe in my cookbook, but today I'm just kind of eyeballing. So for about this much kale, I usually do about 2 cups of coconut water. And then I like my green bits to be really finely chopped. That's why I do them first and separate instead of throwing everything in. I don't really enjoy a big leafy green to chew when I'm trying to drink a smoothie. And if you drink a smoothie with a straw, it won't really fit through a straw. And then once I've got that finely chopped, I throw in a banana. And usually when I'm making a really large batch, I'll cut up all of my bananas and all of my avocados and have those in a big bowl, and I have a lot more fruit. And I've mentioned before, when you're making something, sometimes it's just as easy to do a really large batch. And hopefully you have an avocado that isn't rotten on the inside. Let me get another avocado. This avocado is much better. And sometimes you can get frozen pieces of avocado that make this job a lot faster too. And sometimes avocados are expensive, but if you buy them in bulk, you can save a little bit of money. And then I've got 2 tablespoons of coconut oil, and I've melted it and cooled it off just a little bit. And then that goes in. And then I usually blend this up really good, and then I add in the rest of my ingredients. And try as you might, you'll never get your greens pureed to a really smooth consistency. It's just the way that it goes. And then I've got, again, 1 lemon here, and I'll strain that just in case there's any seeds. You could use limes or oranges, grapefruit, whatever you like. And then at this point, I usually just pour all of my fruit in. And this is also one of those recipes that you can make differently every single time. Whatever fruit's in season. Again, if you buy in bulk frozen fruit, it's really a nice way to save money. And a lot of time and effort cutting everything up. And then you could use yogurt or whatever you like. I really like to put kefir in my smoothies, and I usually don't always get the flavored ones. They're low fat and they sometimes have a little bit of sugar in them. I usually try to get the plain full fat kefir, but this is what I've got today. It was on sale. And then I don't really even measure this. I just pour it in till it looks right. And once you've got this mixed up like you'd like it to be, it's ready to drink. So this right here is how I start my day every single day. Green smoothie, coffee, and then in a couple of hours, I move on to my breakfast. But let's give it a try. It's really good. And I've noticed that when you use a really strong green, like a kale, that pineapple or even mangoes really help to cut the bitterness of the greens. But the nectarines in here is what I'm tasting the most. It's really good. It's really refreshing, even in the winter time. And you can make it different every single time. If you don't like one of the ingredients, don't add it in. So the bananas and the avocado and the coconut oil really give this a smooth, creamy texture. You would think that the coconut oil would solidify and be chunky, and it would be if you have a lot of frozen ingredients. It doesn't really blend in. If you wanted to, you could use ice at the very end once the coconut oil is blended in, and it doesn't taste like coconut at all. Or at least maybe I'm just used to it and I can't tell anymore, but it's really good. This is something you could put in a travel mug and take it with you, super fast and easy. So this is exactly how I store my smoothies in the fridge. Now I've got my smoothies for all week long, and I don't drink a whole one. I usually share it with my husband, and so this is the perfect amount for both of us. And then sometimes we do add a little bit more kefir just to make it stretch a little bit further. And as for my coffee, I just do straight black coffee. Years ago, I used to add creamer, and that was my favorite thing in the whole world. And then when I started going sugar-free, I started using less and less creamer. And there's been a few times that I'll revisit the creamer just to see if I still like it. And it doesn't even appeal to me now at all. So straight black coffee and a smoothie is the way that I start my morning. So now for my breakfast. Here on my channel, there is quite a few muffin recipes. And I usually make muffins every weekend, and then I've got muffins for the whole week. And even though it's a muffin every week, I change it up, and that's why there's so many muffin recipes. I like a variety of muffins. But I have a muffin, I have 2 hard-boiled eggs, and then I have a bowl of fruit and nuts and yogurt. And I've got some blueberries and almonds today, and a lot of times I'll change up my fruit and my nuts. And this is whole fat plain yogurt. And then I usually add a little bit of honey or maple syrup to sweeten it just a little bit. But depending on the fruit, that sweetens it already. And I usually don't eat this all in one sitting. I'll take my time and eat it probably over an hour or so. I've had the pleasure of working from home, and so that allows me to eat this whenever I want. But when I did go into the office, this is something that's easily packed into a lunchbox. And then I could just eat it throughout the morning. But to me, it's the perfect balance. I've got protein, and then this right here is a zucchini muffin. Here on my channel, I have my zucchini bread recipe, and that recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. But if you make it into muffins, you can get 12 really good sized muffins. And then I always put some butter on my zucchini muffin, and there are nuts in my muffin as well. So I really try to get a good balance of protein and carbs with what I'm eating. So it works best for me if I meal prep all of this on the weekend. I can get all of my eggs hard boiled, I can get my muffins made, my smoothies are already made. I usually will make my yogurt the night before or the morning of. That doesn't take very long to throw it together. So even before I went gluten-free, I used to meal prep. I was so busy and I worked so much, I didn't have time to make meals every single day. So I saved as much time as I could by getting everything ready on the weekend for that week ahead. And it saved me so much time. And then when I went gluten-free, it was so easy to just keep doing that. And it was more important then because I couldn't really stop during my day and run get a snack somewhere or go to lunch somewhere. So for me, it's more important to keep meal prepping. That way I always have my breakfast, lunch, and most of the time dinner ready to go when I'm ready. And then I don't have to worry that I might be going without a meal, or I might have to take a chance somewhere, which I really don't like to do. It's so rare that I eat out. So this way it's all ready, and it takes just as much time on the weekend, and then I've got it all ready for the rest of the week. And you may have noticed I'm suffering some kind of allergic autoimmune reaction here. It's not something new. I've had this in the past, but it doesn't look very nice. The mystery is, because I'm so consistent with what I eat all the time, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I so rarely eat out, who knows? Maybe it's some kind of irritation from my yard work gloves. Maybe it's some kind of air irritation. Maybe one of the products that I eat on a regular basis has changed one of their ingredients, which, by the way, I always check my labels. Of course not on this, because this is homemade. I made this myself. Eggs are eggs. And then my yogurt, I always check the label for that for sure. But this is something that might be caused by stress. It is stressful to eat this way. You never really know, so you always have to double check. Even though I buy the same products and the same brands of the same thing all the time, I still read the label every single time. And then there's times that I even double check once it's in my cupboard, and I'll go back and double check and make sure that I read the label right the first time. And it sounds a little bit OCD to do that, but it's just the habit that I got into, because you always do have to make sure. And the unfortunate thing is, when something like this happens, you can't figure out where it came from, because you're so careful all the time. So there you go. And who doesn't have stress nowadays? I think everything is stressful nowadays. So you just plug along and do the best you can and hope it goes away. And I'm sorry that it looks terrible, but maybe you have something like this too. And when you have an autoimmune disease and something new comes along, you always think, well, what next? There it is. There's your body acting up again. So I'm going to eat my breakfast, and I'll see you at lunchtime. So now it's time for my lunch. Most of the time I'm pretty boring, and I have the same thing all the time, just like my breakfast. And I love apples, so most of the time I always have an apple, and then chips and cottage cheese. And then I just use my cottage cheese like a dip. And then this is a granola bar that I made. There's a recipe here on my channel for granola bars, and this one is banana and chocolate chip and peanut butter. And I usually make these and change the recipe so they're not the same all the time. And I usually don't eat this right away. I usually kind of save that as an afternoon snack. If I know I'll be on the go quite a bit during the week, I'll make my cloud bread. And that recipe is also here on my channel. And that is such a fast, easy sandwich to make. And I'll make a whole batch of it, again, enough for the whole week of sandwiches, and make a turkey and cheese sandwich or cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. And then I just wrap those in plastic wrap, and then I have a sandwich for every day of the week. And then usually an apple, a granola bar, and maybe chips as a side. I'm so consistently boring with everything that I eat. And that's something that I did long before I went gluten-free, just because it was convenient. And once I went gluten-free, I found a gluten-free version that I liked, and I stick with it. Once in a while, I'll change my chips into crackers or something like that, but most of the time, this is what I eat for lunch. So here I am at dinner time. Nothing fancy at all. It's just some fried chicken, pan-fried chicken, and some mushrooms and some Brussels sprouts. Just a really simple one-pot wonder dinner, as I like to call it. Usually on the weekends, I'll make two really big meals. I'll make a really big dinner, and then I'll make a really big breakfast on my weekend days. And that will give me enough leftovers during the week for dinners. So I'll have some of this for dinner during the week, and then the big breakfast that I made. This week I made some German pancakes and some homemade jam, which is coming up very soon. And that sets me up for a really good week of really good dinners. But this is dinner for tonight. Again, nothing fancy at all. Whatever your favorite spices are, fry it in some bacon grease, and you're good to go. Well, I hope this video has been helpful for you. This is just a day in the life of gluten-free eating. I didn't say gluten-free at the very beginning, but everything today has been gluten-free, as everything I eat is gluten-free. But thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have any questions or comments, let me know, and I'll see you on the next one.